What's up, folks? Welcome back to the stream. It's Tuesday, and we're getting tactical. We're going to talk about some Chaos Space Marines today. So as we've done with the other new releases, what we're going to do is basically go through some small table events. So we're going to take a quick peek at some RTT, some 3-round events, and pick out some Chaos Space Marine lists to look at. We finally got the Minotaur and Field Manual update for Chaos Space Marines last week, so most of the larger events this week did not use the new codex. I believe that there were a couple. I saw a few 5-rounder events that did use the 10th edition codex, but most of those did not have very highly placing Chaos Space Marines. So we're going to be looking at some smaller events that do use them. Now, this was a little interesting to me because there were not quite as many as I expected, and it might have been just a sort of proximity thing, where there's a hobby lag and all this new stuff, and it takes a little while for people to get into a new army. But the codex looks very strong. I definitely expected a lot of people to jump on the bandwagon right away, or at least people who played Chaos Space Marines previously to revert back to them, the folks who played them last year, for example. But we didn't quite see that happen. So we have a couple undefeated results. We have a couple, sort of 3 and 2, 2 and 1 results to talk about. But that's about it. It's I think sort of standard small table stuff happened where we saw insane results from things like Tyranids. Tyranids were destroying at the 3-round event circuit as far as I saw them this weekend. Basically, like, it felt like every event had an undefeated Tyranid list, which I think does maybe answer some questions about Tyranids that folks have, like why are their big scorers getting nerfed. And I think that part of it's because MetaWatch and the GW balance team typically balances based on those like holistic stats rather than just focusing on 5-round events that normally, if you like focus on stat check or something, those would focus more heavily on. And Tyranids are not doing well in that stage, but they do extremely well in the smaller stages. So it was a little bit of an epiphany that I think I had this week. But yeah, anyway, that's what we're going to be diving into. And if anyone has any event results that they'd like me to talk about, go ahead and throw them in there. If they know any events that did use the new codex and had some good results, then go ahead and throw them in. Hope everyone in the US had a warp dust-filled long weekend. Indeed. Changing this Saturday? Yeah, I think we're definitely going to probably... I would be shocked if we didn't see some Chaos Space Marines this Saturday. I'm working on a video right now. It should be up tomorrow morning, talking about new Chaos Space Marines, some technology you can use to fight them, because the new codex is, oh boy, is it something else. So, yeah, it's interesting stuff. But I think, without further ado, I don't know if I have too much other housekeeping to talk about. Oh, DreamHack this weekend, by the way. If you are watching the live stream live, once it shuts off, you should be directed to the DreamHack stream page for Saturday. It's going to be a 3-round invitational tournament. It is 4 teams of 5 players. They're going to play round robin. I know that Art of War is bringing a team. Midwest Reclamation Project is bringing a team. And they are basically farming some of the better players in the country to showcase the team format. So I'm going to be streaming that all weekend, Saturday and Sunday. 2 rounds on Saturday, 1 more round on Sunday. I'm going to try, and right now it's up in the air, basically based on logistics, but I'm going to try to stream a game on Friday evening as well. I have a bunch of new equipment that I bought for the stream setup for this event. So I would like to run my stream at least one time before we rip the Band-Aid off on Saturday. So it sounds like right now, and let me caveat this and say that this might not happen if I get held up on travel, and if I'm not able to get everything set up on Friday, if I hit any technical issues. Right now, the plan is to stream Brad Weir from Tabletop Life and Nick Nanavati from Art of War in a show match on Friday evening. I'm also going to be joined by JD Carter from Away Games. He's going to be a co-commentator for the weekend as well. He's the head judge over there, and if you've watched my Away Game streams, you probably almost certainly seen and heard him on stream before, but he's going to be hanging out with me all weekend. We don't expect too many judge calls in this event, but we may get a couple, and JD will take care of those, but in his downtime, he's going to be hanging out with me on the stream. So I'm excited for the weekend. I think it's going to be amazing. Please come hang out with me on those pages. All right. Boom. That's the housekeeping stuff getting taken care of. Let's frickin' talk about some event results. So most of the results that I have to talk about are going to be using Renegade Raiders. I think that is not particularly surprising. I'm just going to start pulling them up right here. And if we flip over, I've taken down some of the events that have used the new codex. This one, Nelson Wyrm, played Chaos Space Marines to a 3-0 record. This one was that Renegade Raiders detachment. So, and I guess actually, what I should do is pull open my codex so that we can have a little look at the detachment abilities. The Renegade Raiders detachment is frickin' nuts. If you attack enemies on an objective marker, you get +1 AP on your attacks. Your ranged weapons get assault, so it's like a little bit of Firestorm Spearhead or Firestorm Assault Force energy from the Space Marine Codex. Everything's fast. Everything hits harder. We also have some absolutely ludicrous stratagems in this attachment. You get a 6-inch advance on your transports or mounted units. That one's not quite as exciting, but still useful. Plus -1 EP, excuse me, so an Armor of Contempt just on a stick. As a battle tactic, precision for 1 CP, not quite as good, but there are some weird ways you can use that, which I'll talk about in my video tomorrow, so stay tuned for that one. We're going to talk about Warp Talons. Reverse Haste gives you advance and charge and +1 to charge if your target's on an objective marker for infantry or mounted. So you can't use it on vehicles, but that's fine. We're probably charging with infantry anyway. Ruinous Raid gives you full hit and wound rerolls if you've disembarked an objective this turn. So fortunately, you can't use that on some of the deep strikers and stuff. But usable in shooting or fight phase and makes your infantry absolutely nuts. And then last but certainly not least, maybe the most controversial stratagem in the detachment, you can fall back at the end of the fight phase if you are eligible to fight that phase. Either player's fight phase, you can't re-embark a transport that you disembarked from this turn, but if you fought in your opponent's fight phase, you could fall back, re-embark the transport, then disembark and use a Ruinous Raid for hit and wound rolls. Or you can just be a Warp Talon, and you can fall back out of melee, and then you go into a Strategic Reserve. So yeah, this detachment's insane. Nelson over here was running, Huron Blackheart. That's cool. Actually, I haven't looked at, I don't believe that Huron Blackheart's data sheet changed whatsoever, but he's kind of a chapter ancient of a character. Huron, where'd you go? There you are. Yeah, he gives you +1 objective control. You can redeploy units after both players have deployed their armies, and I imagine that we're playing a lot of transports in this list. Yeah, 3 Chaos Rhinos, 2 units of Bikers, just regular old Bikers, even after they got nerfed. There's the Warp Talons, hello. Plus Plague Marines. Cool. And by cool, I mean gross, that's disgusting. So being able to reposition the transports is a huge deal because you're then able to get them better lines of ingress up the table. So you can, typically the downside is that with your larger vehicles, you're choosing either between moving proactively around gaps in terrain or hiding behind the terrain, which makes your ability to move into the center much harder. And being able to do that, whichever one of those that you want, because this is pretty good. I guess, importantly, this is after you deploy, not before you take the first turn. But that means that you can prevent enemies, if you deploy a transport, you can prevent enemies from squeaking line of sight to that transport before you want to. So you can, a lot of times it's just like a slight reposition to make sure that their units don't get line of sight, which allows you to deploy more aggressively, have them counter deploy you, and then pull your guys back a little bit to make you unshootable. Still super strong. So, we've got Huron, a Chaos Lord, A Master of Executions with Mark of the Hound. Now, I don't remember the names of all of the enhancements here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that real quick. Enhancements are always the one that catches me out. That one gives a unit 6-inch scout on an MOE, and then a second Master of Executions as well. We then have, and the 6-inch scout as well, it affects everyone in the bearer's unit, so it is going to hit the entire, probably Legionnaire squad that he's joining into. So because then every unit, if they embark into transport, or every model that embarks in the transport has scout, the transport, if it's dedicated, so like a Rhino, also gets scout. So you get a redeploy from Huron, and then you also get a proactive scout move with one of these squads as well, which is huge. 1 big unit of Legionnaires, 2 smaller units of Legionnaires, 3 Chaos Rhinos to carry them around, 2 units of Chaos Bikers, 1 Forge Fiend with all ectoplasma cannons, gives you a little bit of long-range firepower. You definitely need that to keep opponents like sort of on their toes. 2 units of Warp Talons, and then a 10-man of Plague Marines. Now, the interesting thing about these guys is that because of the Cult of the Dark God ability, they get the Heretic Astartes keyword. So they get all of the synergies that you would normally expect. They don't get Dark Pacts, because none of these cult units have Dark Pacts listed on their datasheet, but they will get the detachment ability because they're Heretic Astartes units in their army, and they also get all of the stratagems. So you can imagine that, we're talking about Plague Marines with like their big heavy plague weapons, plus they're pretty good at shooting. Giving those guys hit and wound rerolls after they disembark a transport, and given the fact that they can embark into, I believe that they can embark into the Chaos Rhinos. I think that they only, I don't think that they exclude any non-damned infantry. I believe it's only damned infantry that get locked out of the Rhinos. And jump backs and stuff. Let's take a quick peek here so I'm not misspeaking. Yeah, Heretic Astartes infantry models. Oh, you can even put cultists in there. Terminator, Jump Pack, Obliterator, Possessed cannot be embarked. Alright, well, that was easy. So, did you put cultists in the Chaos Rhino? Okay. Fair enough. So you can fill the Chaos Rhinos with the Plague Marines or the Rubric Marines and use them as staging points to disembark these guys and then go and fight. But the Plague Marines having full hit and wound rerolls in melee is huge. The Rubric Marines don't really need that, which kind of stretches the rerolls that your army's getting. And Rubric Marines already are pretty good at shooting into high toughness stuff. So as long as you are, you're on an objective and they don't control it, they get wound rerolls against you. And that's very kind of gameable. Like you can contest objectives and have your opponent not control them, but that technically means that since you don't control it, the Rubric Marines will get rerolls against you. And because that checks at the end of each phase, you can like have an objective be contested or you control it, for example, but your opponent's touching it. You leave the objective, donate control back to them, and then charge back on it after the shooting phase. So there's lots of ways to give these guys rerolls without having to use the stratagem. And with their Icon of Flame, they get +1 AP on critical wounds. So if they're attacking into large, sort of big high toughness stuff, they're mostly wounding on 5s or 6s most likely. But with full rerolls, half of those are +1 AP. And if you're already touching an objective, which you are at that point, you're also +1 AP base. So their Warp Flamers go to a base AP 2, ignore cover, probably AP 3, which is kind of brutal. They can also shoot out of the top of the Rhinos as well. They have a lot of really good range attacks that they can firing deck off. And then the Warp Talons. So the Warp Talons, we've talked about them last week, and I have a video coming out about them. But they're a billion twin-linked attacks. If they are unengaged at the end of the fight phase and they were eligible to fight that phase, they go into Strategic Reserve. So you can combo that on your own turn with the fallback after fighting strat to charge into something, do a bunch of damage. The stratagem doesn't work until the end of the fight phase, so they get to hit you back. So if they have good attacks, they'll do some damage. But then you can fall back, put them in reserve, and then that was the end of your turn. So your opponent moves, and you rapid ingress them directly back on the table and do it again. So for 2 CP per battle round, this big Warp Talon unit can just constantly be doing like passive damage to your opponent with basically no way to stop it. It's super duper silly. But yeah, I think what we're probably doing here, I guess like we have Legionaries for sort of just doing kind of trash collection. One of the Legionary squads is going to push up the table with that Scout buff. We're almost certainly putting the Plague Marine squad into a Rhino as well, and I would be surprised if the Rubric Marines weren't in the 3rd Rhino. But as long as any of those disembark and the Rhino's not killed, you can then run up the other guys and then re-embark into it, which then allows you to sort of stage your attack. So you can move the Rhino up in the middle, disembark a unit, move it up aggressively, charge, blow something up, and then put some of the smaller, like 5-man squads into that Rhino to then set them up for the next turn. The funny thing about this detachment is that you have access for command points to both advance and charge and rerolls on the ground pounding infantry that are coming out of transports. So whether you're taking Legionaries or Chosen, you basically have... Each of them provides you with like half of the combo, essentially, and you only need the stratagem for the other half. You almost never need to be disembarking, advancing, and then also rerolling, because the Legionaries get wound rerolls in melee against stuff on objectives, and the Chosen get advance and charge built in. But we're not taking Chosen today. We're taking the cheaper Legionaries. Where the detachment has too many hoops to jump through? That's interesting. I don't know if it is, like... If your opponent is actively not going on to objectives, then it's basically fine for you. And especially with the Warp Talons, you can... I think that the whole package is the power of the detachment. Warp Talons, you can essentially think about, like... They remind me very much of, like... I mean, they're almost exactly Tyranids from 9th edition, like Flying Hive Tyrants. They don't blow up tanks as good, but they kill little guys. Or, like, D-cannon, like, weapon platforms, if that's weird. They have this crazy threat range into the middle of the table, right? They can sit in a ruin that's just off of the center line. They move 12 and can advance and charge for a CP. So they have a very long threat range, and as long as your opponent gives you small units and doesn't like counter position you, they can go up and clear things out and then run away. So they're either your opponent doesn't engage with you at all, which is probably okay, right? Because at that point you're just stalemating out. Or your opponent is trying to score points, but you're killing their army for free, essentially, for the cost of maybe only command points, without having to dedicate any of this stuff. And then if you are in a position where they're actually dedicating the big stuff, they're almost certainly going to be going to objectives to do that. And you can even use stuff like the little 5-man squads, the biker squads, especially the rhinos, to like, move out, score yourself points, and then use them as trading pieces, because the stuff you can trade into, you're mostly getting for free. So I think that it puts a lot more kind of like time pressure on you, I think, than you might expect, because it wants you to come fight in the middle, and the Warp Talons basically like prevent you from being able to do that with stuff you don't care about, because they just kill it for freezies. So you can't trade up into them, basically. Considering a Defiler in Raiders, it's its main downside at range is bad AP. I could see a Defiler. Yeah, their detachment ability is not just melee, right? I think it was math at using melee. Yeah, just attacks the target enemies on objectives. Yeah, I could see Defilers. It's not too bad. Gives you, I think, like, having some long-range punching power is good. Like, the Forge Fiend definitely helps in this instance. Just a thing that can shoot at your opponent if they expose themselves, so they can't just, like, play in the Sprinkler the whole time is always useful to take. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the next one. So we're going to stay with Renegade Raiders for a little bit. The next one is, I love the name of this event, the Fury of the Furry Dice. And this one was Jack Bennett, who went 3-0. We also saw some Imperial Knights do well this week. I think Imperial Knights are sort of like Tyranid-esque in these small table formats, where they are not very good in larger events because they get like counter teched too hard, but in these smaller events where they have a much greater chance of either dodging their bad matchups or just like outplaying them, they do much better. Which is nice to see. The RTT format is the great equalizer, because it's basically totally random whether or not you're gonna hit the really tough stuff. All right. So Jack is running. Jack has named all of his characters, which is great. Looks like we're playing with kind of a similar composition. We're not taking Huron Blackheart, but we are taking 2 Chaos Lords and 2 Master of Executions. We've got 4 units of 5 Legionaries, 2 Chaos Rhinos. Ooh, Predator Destructors. So we're basically using Predators like Death Guard do, except it's much easier. Death Guard require you to be in contagion range to get to unlock their +1 AP, and that is the downside of Predator Destructors, is that they are typically very under AP'd. They only start at AP 1. They can get an additional +1 against infantry, but like that mostly gets counteracted by cover, so they're actually not doing that much damage. But as soon as they're unlocking that 3rd pip of AP, they start being really, really dangerous to most heavy infantry. Like, they're wounding a 2-up, 4-up, like a Terminator profile, or they're forcing them onto their invuln save, even if they're in cover, or Armor of Contempted, which is kind of disgusting. We've then got 2 Chosen Bricks, looks like 5 models apiece, so unlocking their Advance and Charge just base. 3 Obliterators. Can you do that? Is that legal? I thought Obliterators got capped at 2. Isn't that their new thing? Maybe I'm silly. But it feels like I forget how many points they are too. Are they 90 points each? They're not. There's no way they're 60, right? Maybe we just miswrote down. I think a lot of these might be. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Might be like hand scribed, like they created in a Slaves to Darkness list builder, because the index is so new. I can't find my Munitorum document. Do I have it? Oh my god. What a mess. What a mess, chat. Yeah, that's just a wrong points value. This should be... It should be 2 Obliterators for 170. So we said that there's 3, but there's definitely only 2, and we overpaid by 10 points. Probably because it's an old list builder. Yeah, so, I don't know. I think that's all that happened there. Yeah, so the points value is, like, almost correct. It's actually... The points value is actually higher. I don't know why it says 3, though. I hope he didn't play 3. That would have been awkward. Yep. Weird. Super weird. Yeah, I don't know what the sponsons on the Predators are. It could be anything, to be honest. The Heavy Bolters are okay, but the strength value is tough for them. I think most people just run las cannons, but I could not tell you. Las cannons at AP4 are like real sauce, right? Like a lot of times you shoot into a Land Raider and the Land Raider's like, oh, I'm saving on a 3 because I'm AOC'd in cover, and the AP3 is like, aw, this sucks. Once you pop to AP4 and you're putting things on a 4-up or a 5-up save, like, it actually gets kind of spooky. Suddenly those las cannon hits actually convert, and you're like, ugh, this sucks. So yeah, we got 15 Warp Talons in this one as well. Plus 10 Traitor Guardsmen. You love to see it. Just a cheap utility unit, but they get kind of sticky when they're touching objectives because they get +1 and they count as uncovered if they're on an objective. So if you play them really aggressively and they go run up onto an objective to go be like, oh, I'm going to score area denial or whatever, and I'm going to touch the middle objective, or secure no man's land or something, then they're automatically unlocking their +1 cover save thing. And they, even if they're out in the open, they actually become slightly harder to kill, which is, I think, it's a cute ability. All right, so let's take a peek at our enhancements here, chance. We're rocking Dread Reaver on one of the Chaos Lords. That is hit and wound rerolls if you are in the opponent's or wholly within 12 inches of the opponent's deployment zone. One thing I liked when we were talking about building lists with this is actually taking a Winged Demon Prince and using Dread Reaver on that guy, because you can like rapid ingress him into an awkward position and then use him to just ravage your opponent's backlines. Getting hit and wound rerolls with that dude's profile is against stuff that doesn't have a super duper high armor save is brutal. Like he will kill every utility unit in the entire world. Despot's Claim on the other Chaos Lord, that gives you CP generation. A little bit of anti-synergy because it's not gonna. It only works while he's on the battlefield, so it's not gonna work most of the time if he's starting in a transport. But it does give you a bonus in the CP regen if you're near your opponent's deployment zone. So maybe we can make something work out of that. That one actually feels like kind of mid, to be honest, especially if you're taking tactical objectives. Interestingly, so all these armies are building off of the Master of Executions. Let's pull his data sheet up real quick. Here he is. So he gives you hit rerolls against enemies below their starting strength, and that's pretty easy to trigger, especially if you have like literally any of these little guns, these like silly little guns in here, that will plink a damage off someone, especially if you're +1 AP, is going to be turning on that plus starting strength. Oh, what has happened to my PDF reader? Okay. And then you're also getting wound rerolls if you're below half strength. That's less useful because the legionaries very often, if you're attaching them in there, will be getting you wound rerolls anyway. But the hit rerolls is what they're missing. And then you can combo attach them with the lords as well. So you get they work in synergy, which is pretty nice. Plus even more CP generation. Hell yeah. Yeah, no scout move on this one, for sure. That does seem like a windmill slam of an enhancement, but I don't know what the points values for them look like. Is that one expensive? That one's what? Dreadhounds, we said? That one is... Mark of the Hound. 25 points? That's a lot. I could, like, at that points value, I could definitely see leaving it alone. Scouts is so powerful, but, like, sometimes you just don't get use out of it, and 25 points is, like, almost, you know, you're, like, edging in on getting an entire Nurgling squad for that amount of points, which is a lot. He's a Chaos Sorcerer and a Terminator Armor and Deep Strike. All units attack unit within his range get extra +1 AP, so Vindicators go to 4 AP. Could be even AP 5. That is cool. I like the Terminator Sorcerers, and I did this in Thousand Suns for a little while. I made a Patreon video about the list, actually, and I really like that guy. I wish he was slightly cheaper in Thousand Suns, but I like the Sorcerers that just Deep Strike into funny things and cast a spell on your opponent. Yeah. So he, on a 2+, improves armor penetration characteristics by 1. Yeah, the Thousand Suns one gives you hit rerolls of 1 for your entire army against them, which is good if you're not playing with Warp Flamer bricks and you actually need the hit rerolls. Then, plus they always have really good guns. The Chaos Space Marine one is a devastating D3 damage blast, or just laser cannon, which is a beamer. Played 10 Chosen. 3 Rhino, 10 Chosen, Lord Rhino 3 times. Worked so far. Chencho's in with a Lord and a Rhino, like 3 of those in an army, or you played a list with that 3 times. Yeah, the Vindicator list I think is really good for sure. I think that's like the fallback is you just can't you keep playing like the Abaddon Pact Bound Zealots list. It's like marginally worse than it was pre-Codex in the Index version because like Abaddon CP regen was better and like the Dark Pacts work slightly differently, but to be honest, I don't think it makes that much of a difference. You also get really good Warp Talons in Pact Bound Zealots too. I don't think they're quite as good. The +1 AP I think is one of the better options that they can get unlocked. So getting like Slanesh Warp Talons that are 5-up sustained hits isn't quite as good, especially because sometimes you want to be like going for lethals occasionally. I think a 5-up sustained hits is like mathematically like slightly superior, like very marginally superior for just praying for sustained hits. And they don't have the, or for lethal hits, excuse me, in Pact Bound Zealots, and they don't have access to the +1 AP in that detachment, but it is what it is. It's not too bad in either way. Yeah, I think Pact Bound Zealots is really good for sure. Double Terminator, Sorcered Raiders, buffing at Destructor, shooting infantry is AP6 less cannons. AP6, it's AP... the Destructor buff doesn't work, right? But you're still +3. Or with 1 Terminator Sorcerer. Does the Destructor work on all of its guns, or just its autocannon? I thought that the Predator abilities worked on their autocannons, but maybe I'm an insane person. I don't know if that's a clarification that matters so much. It is... Oh yeah, no, it is any attack. No, you're right. You're totally right. You could go to AP7, AP8 even if you take multiple Terminator Sorcerers, right? just keep doing it. Yeah, if you want to sweep infantry, it definitely feels like the thing to do with bolters. All right, we've got, I think, one more we've got a couple more Renegade Raiders to take a peek at. A couple of went 2-1. So at the May Grain of Salt event, we saw some Chaos Space Marines get 2-1, losing the final round here. Benjamin Cromer. And this one was Renegade Raiders, but we brought Abaddon the Despoiler and the Dread Reaver Demon Prince with Wings. Let's go. We just talked about this guy. Yeah, I love that. So he has an impact attack, if I remember correctly. So he's doing mortal wounds already. And then also he's just a deep striker, so he can jump into people. Basically grenades you based on his remaining wounds. So he starts at 10 wounds, so if he ingresses and then immediately charges someone, he's basically automatically doing 5 mortal wounds to them, and then attacks at 3 damage with full rerolls. And he's taking the Khorne Allegiance keyword, so he's strength 10. Yeah, that dude is disgusting. Or strength 8 sweep attacks with rerolls. Sure, why not? Let's go, Dread Reaver Demon Prince. What a guy. Yeah, this guy, he's very expensive. 200 points for that guy is a lot, but he seems totally sweet. We're then taking Abaddon, the now cheaper Abaddon, plus a Chaos Lord with no upgrades. 1 Legionary unit, 2 Chaos Rhinos, Chaos Bikers, 2 Vindicators, a Havoc unit with Reaper Chain Cannons. Okay. 2 Havoc units, or 1 with Las Cannons. So we can get to high AP Las Cannons if we want to. The Reaper Chain Cannons, you start at AP 0, but we can buff them up as well. So we can get them a pip of AP. And if you're getting around cover somehow, then they're actually pretty reasonable. Especially with the hit and wound rerolls, they just kind of go insane. Oh, excuse me, chat. My phone was not silenced. And then 15 Warp Talons. Everybody's just windmill slamming 15 Warp Talons in every list. I wonder if that number will increase, by the way. I wonder if at some point it goes to 20 or 25. I kind of feel like it... I don't know if it would outside of Renegade Reavers, but There are so many situations where just plowing 10 Warp Talons into somebody and then, like, doing 9 damage and running away seems so insane. And being able to do that multiple times over the course of the game seems good. Like, or threaten it, I guess. Not even do it. But maybe you don't need the second unit because the first unit's already doing that over and over and over again. We've then got a big unit of Chaos Bikers. 6 Chaos Bikers, excuse me. Which do have... They lost their ability to translate into strategic reserve, so they can't like do their own uppy downy anymore, which is unfortunate. It makes them a significantly worse utility unit. But they're still pretty good at shooting with Dark Pacts. And I believe that they get a bonus on the charge now, right? Is their new datasheet ability? If I could only find their datasheet, that would be great. Yeah, +1 strength on the charge. So they pull their Power Fist up to strength 9, and their Chain Swords up to strength 5, which is, it's like reasonable. I think the other benefit is that if you use the fallback, fight and fall back stratagem on mounted units, they get a 12-inch move rather than a 6-inch fallback. So Bikers are basically like Warp Talons light, right? They're significantly cheaper. They're obviously worse. They're attacking 4 times a model and have less models in the unit than like a big Warp Talon brick. And don't have twin linked, and I guess their strength is the same, but their EP is lower. So they're significantly worse at doing it, but they are much cheaper, and then you can just jump them back behind like a terrain feature that's 12 inches away for a command point after they swing. They also, I guess, like awkwardly have more OC than a 10-man unit of Warp Talons, because they're 2 OC each. So they're actually pretty good at taking objectives away. And they have Meltaguns. Yeah, maybe it's fine. Yeah. So we've got 2 Havoc units, Chosen and Legionnaires. So we can basically like drop either 2 range units into a Rhino or 1 and 1 melee and range into each Rhino to make those Rhinos kind of good batteries for a pretty wide variety of stuff.
For chaos.
Objective Control, what's up? How's it going, guys? Thank you for the $10 for chaos indeed. Hope you guys are having a good weekend. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for sponsoring the rules video that we released on Sunday. They also get the 6-inch auto advance strat. Yeah, I guess that also is good. So they're like late game, they can just run in 18 inches and steal all the objectives away. Pretty strong. I definitely understand the smaller biker units. The big one's interesting to me. It feels like they actually want to be killing people with those bikers. And I guess the other thing about bikers too is that they get a chaos icon, first of all, which is huge. Second of all, they have 3 wounds apiece, and I think one of the biggest weaknesses of the Warp Talons is that if you're going into with these like little Warp Talon units into units that are right on the mathematical cusp of being killed, so like 5 Tactical Marines, you're like probably 80% chance to kill them, but there's like a non-zero chance that you flub. If you fail your Dark Pact and take D3 Mortals, there's a pretty significant chance that you lose a whole Warp Talon. There's a 66% chance that you lose a Warp Talon. So, and that basically cuts the likelihood of you killing what you charged probably in half, to be honest. So, having this big unit that has like less output but more resilience, and with a Chaos Icon and a rerollable leadership check for their Dark Pact, much more reliability into a lot of those circumstances. I think it actually makes a lot of sense. And that's one of the reasons that I think I'm spoiling my video, but doing damage, any damage to these Warp Talon units before they engage you makes things so awkward for them, because they play like right on the percentage line a lot of times with like, oh, if I can kill you in 1 hit, it's going to be great. If I can't, then I got to start spending strats to get out of melee. I'm probably not going to be like one-shotting people in the future, so I'm not really gaining like that passive value. So if you have indirect fire, a good Overwatch, or any of the stuff like that, that's going to be so valuable against Warp Talons. The runaway at end of fight phase does work with their uppy downy. The timing and requirements, like targeting requirements for both of those, are identical. So it works on your own turn. It won't work on your opponent's turn because your opponent will tell you to resolve their uppy downy first. So they won't uppy downy and then they'll just fall back and look like an idiot. But that won't matter because theoretically they're always going to be charging and they're always going to be killing something on the charge. Is the goal. That's the pie in the sky. All right. But that's why you take the big 10-man units, to be honest, because then they can charge like big tanks and stuff. They don't average too much damage, but even into like a Land Raider, they're probably doing like, I think it's 8 or 9 damage is the average, which is a lot with the +1 AP if you don't have any defensive stuff. So they can go in and just like plow you for a bunch of damage and pre 1 CP to leave. And that's, you know, that's just solid value right there, right? That's probably 150 points worth of actual work that you just got out of that unit that does not cost significantly more than that. Bringing triple Dark Reaper, yeah. Yeah, Dark Reaper's stock is going up significantly. I actually, interestingly, especially with orcs being so prevalent right now, and I know there were some comments in the chat I saw earlier, some people talking about orcs like kind of falling off the face of the planet in the last week. The orcs have taken up their rightful place potentially as like the game's preeminent gatekeepers, and it seems like the armies that are good at killing orcs, their stock has increased dramatically, and those armies are doing very well. So we see things like Thousand Suns and, interestingly, Astra Militarum doing fairly well, and it seems like Astra Militarum actually might have orcs number randomly because we, not necessarily 5-0 results, but we saw a lot of Astra Militarum win on the small tables this weekend, and they have like a lot of suppression effects, tons of blast, just infinite chaff infantry they can use to screen out orc like aggression. I think that Astra Militarum might be another silver bullet. So, but between them and like Thousand Suns, all those factions are doing incredibly well. They're getting lots of wins, and they're keeping orcs to like X and 1. The orcs will win until they hit one of those really hard matchups, and then get aced. But Astra Militarum, that like sort of the tangent there is that Astra Militarum then may become even more popular, and I have a sneaking suspicion that Militarum, like indirect fire batteries, are really good against Chaos Space Marines. They're not so good against like the Legionary units and stuff and the Rhinos, but they're able to suppress the Warp Talons. A Basilisk, just clipping at Warp Talons every turn, potentially with like overlapping fields of fire, just eviscerates them. That sounds like an absolute nightmare for that unit. And, you know, while Militarum has a lot of the chaff idiots that Warp Talons are really good at killing and getting for free, they're just going to be blasted by artillery every turn. And that feels a little dicey. I don't know. Plus, outside of Renegade Raiders, you can get Militarum infantry to a 4+ save, or even a 3+ save if you are telling them to go to ground. And that actually starts to make things a little awkward if they are AP2 Warp Talons. So then they might need to commit a little bit of additional work to actually one-shot the unit and run away. I don't know. I'm feeling okay about it Militarum right now. At least in those two matchups. The other matchups, I'm not so sure. But at least in those two matchups, they're okay. And they don't feel too bad against like Thousand Suns either. They lose the tanks really easily, but they also counterpunch super hard. Guard's so well equipped against Orcs and Warp Talons? Yeah, for sure. The question will be if Guard are equipped for the other Chaos stuff, like the other units in the Chaos Army, but if they're dropping, you know, what is essentially 15 Tactical Marines on the table and being like, aha, how will you deal with this? And you kill them all immediately and they're playing 350 points down, I think that you're probably looking pretty good to roll things out from there. Vindicators are probably, I imagine, maybe a little bit of a problem. They have like, they have smoke launchers and high defensive profiles, which Guard can sometimes struggle with. Minus when they hit effects are just brutal for Guard, and Chaos Vindicators being able to pop smoke and then just like trade 1-for-1 with their Lehman Russ is a little bit awkward, but maybe they can find a way around it. I think maybe the answer is just to take regular Lehman Russ, because I think regular Lehman Russ are slept on. If you are taking the whole brick of anti-armor save tech. So if you have Hellhounds, Leman Russ Exterminators, and Ursula Creed for overlapping fields, and you can get a Leman Russ Battle Tank to AP3 ignore cover, then suddenly their Battle Cannon doesn't look so bad anymore, and they get hit rerolls on it. So you're basically like playing a Destructor at that point that rerolls its hit rolls. All right, so this list in particular, we didn't talk about this one so much. It's just running 2 Chaos Lords, one with the Scout Enhancement, 2 Legionary units, 2 Chaos Rhinos, a Land Raider. Let's go. Double Chosen, so that's where the Chaos Lords are going, almost assuredly. 2 Chaos Vindicators, Havocs, a Hellbrute, 1 Possessed unit, big 10 mana Warp Talons. Oh, I pointed at this being like 15 Warp Talons, but there's actually a Possessed unit here. The Possessed can go into the Land Raider, right? Am I crazy about that? I wouldn't actually be too shocked if that was not the case, but I feel like it is. But that is like a hell of a backline shooting platform, right? Like you have a Land Raider, plus you have 2 Vindicators. Yeah, you can take 10 Possessed in there. So we can put, how many Rhinos did we take? 2 Rhinos. So we can put Legionaries and Chosen in each of the Rhinos, and then fill the Land Raider up with Possessed. That feels okay. And the Possessed get most of the synergies from the rest of the army as well. Like they can advance and charge, they can disembark and get full rerolls, and they can combo that with their devastating wounds once per game. Seems really good, actually. Wait a minute. Possessed being able to trigger devastating wounds and then get full hit and wound rerolls seems like a windmill slam as long as they're disembarking from something. I guess the downside is that you have to take a whole ass Land Raider to do that. So the whole combo is a command point and like 400 points, but Land Raiders aren't too bad already, and you're taking the Hellbrute to buff your shooting anyway, so it seems pretty good. Plus, like, we just talked about how good Las Cannons were with AP buffs, and this feels like it's right up that alley. Vindicators consistently do 4 damage. 4 damage per shot or 4 damage total? Because my experience with Land Raiders, or with Vindicators, although to be fair, they were with Abaddon and in Pax-Bound Zealots, is like 40 damage. If you fully wombo combo them out, the Vindicators do like kill literally anything in the game. That's not even close. The downside is the range on them, but it's not too bad. No, this list is really cool. So one thing I do like as well is that we're taking the Rhinos and the 1 Legionary unit, which is like a very that's a very like World Championships, like Manny Chima World Championship energy right there. What the one way that Manny Chima kind of like reinvented the Space Marine, the Chaos Space Marine archetype when he won World Champs, is that he took 5-man Legionnaire squads. Most of the time, people, I think, were into either multiple 5-man Chosen or a 10-man Chosen in the Rhinos, and he flipped out the Chosen, 5 of the Chosen for a 5-man Legionnaire squad with Mark of Slanesh, so they could just disembark, advance, and charge and like blow something up on an objective for only a couple points. And this detachment can just do that. You still pay the CP for Mark of Slanesh. They don't hit quite as hard. Oh, actually, they hit probably reasonably hard if you're targeting an enemy on an objective. They don't get the 5-up criticals, but they do get +1 AP, which is kind of a wash against most targets. And they have a gun to shoot at the top too, if you're not charging with them. No, that seems totally reasonable. No, I actually like that. Yeah, so if you're disembarking the Chosen just to hit big stuff, you could just firing deck these guys. And you turn your Rhinos into Razorbacks, essentially. That's cute. John Mark just always rolled bad. Just roll better, man. It's all in the wrist, you know? It's all in the wrist motion. 30 Warp Talons or you're a square. I don't know. 30 Warp Talons and you are a square, I think might be the refrain. We'll see. We'll see how they end up doing. All right, chat. Well, I think this last list was definitely like was like my favorite out of out of the brace, I think. That one's super funny. It's cool to see Land Raiders and like Possessed coming back on the table too. That's cool technology. Let's move over to Soulforge Warpack. So we had a couple of good results from Soulforge Warpack. It definitely was widely played as Renegade Raiders, I think, for obvious reasons, but still saw a little bit of success. Now the first one is actually going to be at a GT. So over here, Garage Hammer Legends was, if I remember correctly, a 24-player GT. I talked about the undefeated list on my video yesterday, but the way that the rankings laid out, I believe that there was only 1 or 2 X and 1s. There was a 5-0, like 2 4-1s, and if I remember correctly, Jason was top 4 or top 5 in the list. So he in the event. So he didn't win, and he didn't X1. He X2'd, but he X2'd with really good tiebreakers. And it definitely seems like, I don't know, Soulforge might be a little bit more like stat checky than the other detachments, so it might be less consistent than Renegade Raiders, which is just a huge toolbox. But we'll have to see how it works out.
Could we look at some Tau lists later? I feel like we're finally getting good data from Tau. I personally had serious hobby lag sourcing 10 plasmas when the kit for Crisis Battlesuits comes with only 3.
The kit for Crisis Battlesuits comes with 3. And it comes with 1 plasma per battlesuit? That's weird. Like, you can take more plasma guns in a Crisis squad than you can on the datasheet than it comes in the box. I thought that was why they changed the box. Bizarre. Yeah, we can take a look at Tau list later. I'm going to wrap up talking about the Chaos Space Marine Codex. So we're going to talk about, I have this and I have one more Soulforge Warpack list to look at, and then we can jump into some Tau. There was a lot of Tau. Again, small tables is all over the place, but there was a lot of undefeated Tau in these smaller events. I don't know how much was in the larger events because I didn't look at X and 1s too hard, but we can take a peek for sure. Had 8 shots yesterday and made 1 hit? What? That's insanity. That's roll better than that, my guy. All right, we are over here at Garage Hammer 2024. Like I said, this is, I think, top 5, if I remember correctly, in the placement, top 5 in the event. Jason is running Vashtor the Archiphane. I'm gonna grab Vashtor's datasheet right quick here. We took a peek at him when the Codex came out because he did get a big glow up. He's like an entirely new character now. He actually slaps really hard. If only I could find his datasheets. That would be cool. There he is. So he gives +1 strength to demon vehicles within 6 inches. And that is not melee attacks. That is all weapons. So it works on your ranged attacks as well. You can pay the CP and Soulforge Warpack to turn your non-demon vehicles into demons. You can possess them with a demon, so they get these buffs as well. And then you can make enemy ranged units within 18 inches that shoot him hazardous, which is cute. I like that. Definitely makes him hard to like peel down with a lot of the sort of more aggressive units in the game. I don't know how often that will come into play, but I guess I think there's a funny interaction with non-attack effects. The wording of this ability is really weird. Let me just verify real quick. So if you have like a vortex, that does target the model, right? No, it selects. Just kidding. Yeah, I don't know if any non-attack effects target before you attack, but that's like a bizarre wording. I'm sure that there's something in the game that targets before you make an attack, which could then give you hazardous even if you don't attack Vashtor later on in that phase. I don't know why it would be like range. Well, it wouldn't be that like ranged attacks at targeting this unit have hazardous until the attack is resolved or something. It's a bizarre wording. I guess you could shoot at Vashtor with... It's like quantum or entropic damping from Necrons. It's almost the same wording. Where you could... The unit could target him if, like, one las cannon shoots him or whatever, but then all your bolt guns in the unit shoot somewhere else. That gives all of their guns hazardous, even if they didn't target Vashtor. That's probably the difference there. But that's sort of neither here nor there. Plus, he's anti-vehicle forward devastating. He's got a big, cool thunder hammer. Very nice. We're running 2 Warp Smiths, one with Forge's Blessing, one with Invigorated Mecha Tendrils, which is the +4 movement. So it makes it movement 10, I think. The gift is the, I believe, the enhanced blessing. Oh no, that's Tempting Addendum. Forge's Blessing is a 6-up Feel No Pain to somebody within 12. We're then running 2 Vindicators, 3 Mauler Fiends. Yeah, so the Mauler Fiends, they have the stratagem in the Soulforge Warpack to jump through walls. That one is Unstoppable Rampage. So the Mauler Fiends actually become very reasonable melee threats because they're relatively fast. They get reroll advances and charges of 2, I believe. They get plus 2 attacks, so they go to 8 attacks with Dark Pacts on their melee profile, and they they don't get obstructed by terrain for 1 CP, which is kind of nuts. We then have 2 Obliterators, correct points value on the Obliterators this time, very exciting. 2 Venom Crawlers, or 3 Venom Crawlers, excuse me, plus 2 Warp Talons, just for chaff clearing, and a Nurgling squad. So the Venom Crawlers are interesting. They can get +1 to wound on their guns, and they only start at a base strength 6. So +1 to wound on that profile makes them much better at killing like smaller infantry, and that's really what Venom Crawlers want to be doing because they want to fuel their melee attacks later on in the game, so that they can late game super hard with a billion extra attacks by killing people. You can also buff them, buff any of those, I guess, with +1 AP, which definitely helps. The Mauler Fiends only come in at AP 2, so they're actually, they don't punch super tough stuff very well. But buffing all of those sort of little mediocre attacks with +1 AP is huge. And then we could potentially translate that stuff over to the Vindicators by paying a CP as well, which is very cute. Yeah, no, this seems really cool. We have like mid-range attacks with the Venom Crawlers, which are super cheap. The Mauler Fiends are sort of your aggressive units that want to run up the table and do stuff. And then we're backing that up with Vindicators, backed up by Hellbrute for the double Dark Pact effects. That's huge. The indirect strat for Thousand Suns targets you. I guess, does the strat... That one's weird, though, right? Because it's a stratagem, right? It's not a unit targeting you. It has to be a unit that targets you. So it has to be like a unit with an ability. What about Binding Tendrils? Does that work? Oh, no, that's in the movement phase. That one doesn't count. There's got to be something in there. I bet there's something really stupid. Force Feed winning 10 on 2s is nice. T10 on 2s, yeah. It's +1 strength from Vashtor and +1 to wound from the, what do you call it? The contract invocation, yeah. Yeah, that's a huge, like, combination of effects for sure. All right, we got one more event one more list to talk about. So we did have an undefeated Soulforge Warpack. But it did tie at the end here. So the Grimdark Rumpus, James Howard went 2-0-1 with a Soulforge Warpack. So tied in the finals game 82-82 against Orcs. Sounds like an absolute hell of a game. Running Vashtor, 1 Warpsmith, no upgrades. Triple Forge Friends, so we were just talking about how good that was. Tripper Mauler Friends, Triple Venom Crawlers, Lord of Skulls. Who needs infantry? Chat. Not me. Not me. I'm all in on the big boys. Jesus Christ. The Lord of Skulls, I think, is like sort of is kind of nutty, right? In this attachment, he is a big demon vehicle, benefits from all the stuff, kills like anything in the game that he shoots at. You can give him +1 AP for a command point, and then +1 to wound, +1 strength from Vashtor. He's just going absolutely insane. Also, moving through terrain is huge for him because he can clip through buildings, which normally you can't do. Normally, he has a tough time going through buildings with this huge like 8-inch base. But at least he can go over the corners with that strap. It makes things much easier. So you have like this huge boat of backline shooting, right? Just absolutely insane amounts of damage output from the Forge Fiends and the Lord of Skulls, and then you're again following it up with the Mauler Fiends for your sort of really aggressive melee armor cracking, and then the Venom Crawlers as the follow up. I'm interested that the Mauler Fiends don't take their guns, right? Mauler Fiends have a little shitty 6-inch range gun. It's almost literally a melta gun, but it's only range 6. But it's still, if you invoke a contract, you can still get +1 to wound on it. I guess, and like honestly, I don't know if you're that worried about failing Dark Pact checks on them, because like I'll take a little bit of damage, but like, okay. Like I'm gonna die anyway next turn. It almost doesn't matter. And getting +1 to wound on a like a melta gun into a lot of like big heavy vehicles, it makes a lot of sense. The tendrils are also good, especially if you're going +1 AP or lethal hits, but they mostly just help you clearing infantry, which I guess you might need if you don't feel like the Venom Crawlers and all the blast weapons can do it themselves. Yeah, I mean the tendrils like are more attacks, right? So if you're you take less overall Dark Pact checks, so you're probably taking less Dark Pact damage. And the tendrils attack 6 times with the worst profile and do so in multiple phases, in multiple turns, than the 2 shots from the gun. But 2 shots with +1 to wound and like probably sustained hits or something is actually like kind of sweet. I don't know. Just converted a Lord of Skull. Is going to try him out. Yeah, I think the Lord of Skull is an absolute insane piece in this codex. So many of the detachments are really, really good with him. Even Renegade Raiders, honestly, he gets assault on all of his ranged weapons, so he's actually kind of fast. And he gets +1 AP when targeting things on objectives. Like even just that is like already good. And then obviously he's a windmill slam in Soulforge Warpack, or in Fellhammer Siege Host, I think. If you're playing like the Iron Warriors detachment, he might actually like be good. Yeah, he gets a 5-up Feel No Pain in Fellhammer Siege Host, and Transhuman if you get hit by like big, huge anti-tank stuff. I don't know, chat. Might be okay. All right. We are done with Chaos Space Marines for this week. So those were all of the high scorers I could find. A couple, as I mentioned before, a couple larger events, or at least 5-round events, used the new codex, but they were smaller in terms of player count. They were usually around 16 to 20 players or so, and as far as I saw, they didn't really get much better than I think a 3 and 2. I think it was hard to tell though because a couple of them hadn't been ended in BCP, so they didn't create parent placings. So I got to 1 and 2 and then sort of stopped counting, I think, at that point. So we're gonna talk about Tau, and then we have a couple other little like 4-round events that randomly happened over the weekend that had some interesting results. And that's what I'll talk about next. So let's find some Tau lists to talk about. I'm going to peek through some of the bigger ones and see if we have any like X and 1 Tau that we want to peek into. Inky's here to co-commentate. What's up, Kitty? What are you doing? You're just yelling? Oh, I didn't realize the Andorra GT was top cut. Okay, yeah, we got a couple to talk about. So, we're at the Rocky Top Rumble. I think in my video yesterday I called it the Rocky Mountain Rumble, which is, that's just another event, right? It's just one word different. I don't know. But we have 2 undefeated Tau lists. Stephen Crawley, Brendan Valley, both taking Tau, or excuse me, not undefeated, X and 1. Both 6 and 1 out of 7 rounds. Which is impressive. Stephen Crawley running an ethereal. Okay. I'll be honest with you, chat. I don't even know what ethereals do in this edition. I don't know if I've ever seen one. I think that they give you Feel No Pain. Yeah, they give you 5-up Feel No Pain and 4+ CP regen. So if we're rocking, he seems like kind of a windmill slam, I guess, if you're rocking tactical second, or excuse me, fixed secondaries, which we might be doing in this list. This could be a kind of instance where you just windmill slam, deploy, teleport, Homer's Cleanse, and just call that a day because you have so many individual units. There are tiger sharks in this list. Whoa, whoa, we're going crazy right now. Shadow Sun, Dark Strider, 3 Breacher teams, no Fireblades for them. There she is. What's up, girl? How you doing? No Fireblades for them whatsoever. Plus 3 Stealth Battlesuit teams, I think, as is to be expected. A Crude Hound unit for utility. A single Broadside Battlesuit. 1 Riptide Battlesuit with Ion. 1 Skyray Gunship. 2 Tiger Sharks, 3 Devilfish. So there's no Pathfinders for Dark Strider. We're just taking Dark Strider for Dark Strider's sake. So to block enemy deep strikes. And then we have an Ethereal with Strike Swiftly, which is, I actually really like that as a spot for Strike Swiftly to stat. The weird part about that enhancement is that obviously it can't go on Epic Heroes, which you would love to do, because you'd love to put it on Dark Strider, or you'd love to put it on Shadow Sun if you could. But because it triggers at the start of the game, and it obviously doesn't work if you're embarked into a transport, because you can't use abilities, the character who has it, in order to get use out of it, has to deploy on the battlefield. And outside of maybe Cold Star commanders, that's so rare. And if you're not running Cold Star commanders, if you're not like running battle suits in your army, which you don't often do in Monka, that is, it's so hard to make that work. So having an Ethereal that already wants to be standing on the table is probably like, he's not like the hardest thing in the game to kill. He could be sitting with a Breacher team, but he's probably just chilling by himself. He's got 2 shield drones, so he's a 5-up invuln save baked in, plus he's 5 wounds. Unfortunately, he doesn't get his Feel No Pain, but he's also relatively fast, so he could just be a little utility unit by himself that then gives you that pregame move. So I actually really like that. Sometimes you see people have to work, sort of contort themselves through hoops in order to get Fireblades to do it, and then embark into their transport or something, or you're putting Crisis Battlesuits on the line or whatever, and it's always really weird. But just doing it with an Ethereal who's basically cheap and gives you CP back feels good. Yeah, and then we have 2 Tiger Sharks. All right, we have to look at some Tiger Sharks too. All right, what do we got, chat? They have a transport capacity of 12 tactical drones. That's good. We are running Swift Strike Railguns, Missile Ranks, and Cyclic Ion Blasters. So they have 6 Sib shots, Strength 8, EP 2, 2 damage, Hazardous. They have 2 D6 plus 6 damage devastating railgun shots. 6 Seeker missiles that they could just alpha you with. And then 2 Sky Spear missile racks, which is anti-fly 3 blast. So just like a horde sweeper, basically. Anti-fly 3 is actually not too bad, especially like if you're worried about other Tau players and like Necrons and stuff, because most of that stuff flies. So, you know, if you're fighting against other Xenos, essentially, basically like everything flies. And so having these guys just be able to like pop in and be like, hey, here's like whatever, 2d6 plus probably like 4 if you're blasting a couple times and then winning on 3s with bonuses from stealth suits is actually like a lot of damage. The weird part is that you can't, like, you don't want to split fire these guys, right? Because then you lose all the benefits on the split fire shots from, you get the -1 to hit when not targeting the guided target, which is a bit funny. And then you can force people to take battle shock checks. He does not hover, by the way, so he's starting off the table and then reserving on. Like a normal aircraft does. So I think we're just dropping him in round 2 and like just hyper alpha striking people, right? 12 Seeker missiles plus 4 railgun shots like off the side of the table is a lot. Yeah, that is wild. That is a wild list for sure. 2 tiger sharks, chat. Extremely funny. All right. Move on to Brandon Valley. Also, this time running Kalyan. They told me Kalyan is bad. Did they? Yeah, that seems like it's wrong. I think that the prevailing wisdom is that Kalyan is not quite Monka. Monka is really good. Yeah, certainly a list. This one's running Shadow Sun, an Enforcer Commander with Exemplar of the Kalyan. So it turns on the benefits turn early. Dark Strider, again. 2 Breacher teams. Again, no Fireblades, the Breacher teams. We're just rocking them. Who needs Fireblades? They suck. 2 Devilfish. A Star Scythe Battlesuit unit. So this one's with burst cannon. So this is the +1 AP when targeting the closest, right? And then with a trillion burst cannon shots, you can give them. We don't have exemplar of the support enhancement, right? So we can't give them lethal hits, but they can get sustained 2 and then +1 AP. So they just like truck sort of like high volume units really easily. Sustain 2 from the Kalyan detachment ability, obviously. And you're turning that on in round 2, probably, because you're detaching an Enforcer Commander to them. So just like a trillion shots. And is the Enforcer Commander also rocking burst cannons? Yeah. 1 cyclic, 3 burst. Jesus. +2 gun drones. A Ghost Keel Battlesuit, because they rule. 3 Piranhas. Surprised I don't see as many Piranhas as I have in recent Tau lists. Piranhas are, like, did not change whatsoever, and were probably overpowered to begin with. But having 2 Seeker missiles and a Fusion Blaster on the Scout 9 mover for 55 points is, like, an absolute steal. That's like a T7 body with a bunch of wounds. +2 Riptides with ion accelerators. 3 Skyray gunships, because they're amazing. 2 stealth battlesuit units for support. Yeah, this is a little bit more sort of standard, I guess. We have this like counterpunch team that we can use with the Star Scythe to just jump in and blow like out a unit that's coming in and engaging us. Ghost Kill Battlesuit and the Piranhas to hold the midboard down. And then you can follow that up with the Devilfish Breacher teams to counterpunch. And then you just have a lot of like long range shooting from the Skyray gunships as well. This definitely feels like 10th Ed Codex good stuff. For sure. All right. Take a quick peek if we have any more Tau that we can take a look at. There's a 5-1 from War Calls. Hayden Walduck. Crude Hunting Pack, chat. Let's go! Let's go! We've got an Ethereal, two Flesh Shapers, one with the Borthrod gland for the bonus of sustains, if I remember correctly. A Lone Spear with the Crude Hog Flock, so you can't Deep Strike near him. He's uninteractable by Deep Strikers. Please don't come near me. A Trail Shaper for the Infiltrate pregame move, plus a War Shaper with Root Carved Weapons. So I think it's Hidden Wound rerolls. Is that right? I bet I got all that wrong. Ready? I'm going to double check. Survey says... Nope. Borthrod Grind is 5-up critical hits. Root Carved Weapons. Oh, it's Precision Devastating Wounds. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Yeah, which is kind of okay, I guess. A little weird that he has a lethal hit weapon that gets Devastating Wounds. That's good time to be alive. Anti-synergy and a Crude list? Crazy. 2 units of 20 with Crude Carnivores to die and then respawn, plus a unit of 10. 2 Hammerhead Gunships, 1 Farstalker unit, 2 Crude Hounds, 1 Piranha, 3 Riptide Battlesuits. Holy shit, okay, calm down. 3 Stealth Battlesuits, yeah. So we are... no gunships whatsoever. I mean, I think it's like the standard hunting pack sort of energy. We're just using them to body block for the Riptide Battlesuits, and hopefully the Riptide Battlesuits do the damage that we need them to, and then the Crude will hold down objectives for days, because they're not the easiest thing in the world to kill, and they can respawn, and they're high OC obsec, so they could just steal away your objectives easy peasy. I guess we have Hammerhead Gunships, not Skyrays, though, with Ions. A little cheaper, which is nice. All right, chat. I'm going to move over, and I'm going to talk about some other events. So there were 2 4-rounders that I have in my notes over here. 4-rounder is such an interesting format because I don't know. I guess it was 2 days of 2 rounds each. But like you could be a GT, but we're just taking the last round off. And I guess this one was only 16 players, so it makes sense. But sometimes you see a 4-rounder that's like an Iron Man and it's on 1 day. And those are the events that I really, I appreciate. But I don't usually talk about these in my Monday video or my Sunday videos because typically they're kind of small and I only talk about 5+ round events. But 4 rounds is definitely like a weird format. It feels a little bit more competitive than the 5-rounders for sure. But you still get that RTT energy where like anyone can just like randomly windmill slam good matchups all day. So this one was run by I guess kind of run by a Canoptic Quartz. So we have a little bit of Necrons to talk about. Necrons didn't fall off the entire face of the earth. I saw some comments about how Necrons were so bad right now. But I don't know if that was entirely the case. This one's still running 2 Transcendent Catan, Nightbringer Shard, and a standard Transcendent Catan, plus 2 Technomancers and a Plasmancer. Plasmancer in an Immortal Squad, 2 Canoptic Doomstalkers for shooting, 2 Scarab Swarms, 2 Canoptic Wraiths, a Cryptothrall unit. So are we just like windmill slamming out the Immortal Squad to be super tough? Plus a Locust Destroyer unit, no Locust Lord. We're just taking regular Locust Destroyers. That's so interesting. But it gives the list a little bit more reach, because you normally want to be strategic preserving these guys so they can get in on the targets that they want to, or using them to pick out like medium stuff that are on objectives that you don't necessarily want to be committing wraiths into, or shoot, or the Immortals have a tough time actually killing. Because if you're, especially without Saraz in the list. They have a tough time punching through like 3+ armor saves. They force a lot of wounds on stuff, but if you're trying to get like, you know, kill 10 dudes with a 3+ save, they're gonna have trouble. But the Locust Destroyers definitely help with that weapon profile. And you can use them for a little bit of additional reach where your opponent will probably have to sort of play aggressively to screen them out, or just not sit on objectives in order to not get hit by the Immortal Squad, and use screens to block them if they're reserving anyway, and then your wraiths just get to do their thing for free. It's kind of interesting though. There's not a lot of synergy between them and the detachment, which is funky. Let's see. So the other list that I wanted to talk about was Tyranids. So this is the XBG tournament. This was a one-dayer. So this was like an Iron Man event. 4 rounds in 1 day over in Canada. And the winner was Rami Tawil with Tyranids running an invasion fleet. This one is a little interesting though. We took the double tyrant spice. We have an adaptive biology wing type tyrant, so he starts with the Feel No Pain baked in, plus the Swarm Lord for CP regen and his Vect. So just infinite command points here, and he's good if you're taking fixed secondaries, which Tyranids can do. I don't think they actually typically need to, because they are they're so good at scoring tacticals that it like removes your opponent's ability to counterplay basically. We also had an alien cutting Neuro Tyrant, which is the that's the really trash redeploy, right? I think that I've never seen that enhancement actually taken. Yeah, it's the bad redeploy after both players have deployed their armies, not before determining the first turn. It's strictly worse than Neuro Node. It's worse than the same enhancement in the same codex, or a similar enhancement in the same codex. And it's 30 points, but I mean, I guess it worked out. Pretty bizarre. Plus 20 Hormagaunts to take objectives, 5 Barbgaunts to blow up infantry and to suppress them. The big Carnifex brick, so old One Eye to give rerolls, plus the Carnifexes to all the guns. Oh no, just kidding. We ran 1 heavy Venom Cannon on each, Bioplasmas, which I think I mentioned they're both supposed to have, plus Crushing Claws. Okay, dang, let's go. So we're a little hybrid on the Carnifexes, and a little bit awkwardly, the Winged Hive Tyrant doesn't have the Assault Aura that the Foot Hive Tyrant has, so they don't get advance and shoot with those guns either, which might not be the biggest deal, but definitely changes how they work. A little Neurogaunt unit, plus a Maliceptor, 1 Neurolictor, 1 Tyrannofax, and 6 Tyrant Guard. I was going to say, I think that we're going to attach the Swarmlord into them, but he's the only available attachment, because you can't attach the Winged Hive Tyrant, so that makes a lot of sense. So we're running this big brick that can sit next to the Winged Hive Tyrant. It's generating free CP, and then you can use rapid regen for the 5-up Feel No Pain on the unit as well. It's just like a ton of toughness 8 wounds with a Feel No Pain, which is just like super hard to get through. And they get a little bit of a bonus in some instances against with their Twin Linked Weapon, because they get sustained 1 against infantry a lot of times, which it's like kind of +1 to hit. So their 2 crappy attacks is not quite as like as brutal as they would normally be. That's really cool. So they're sort of I guess like there's a lot of big sort of bulwark units in the list, right? We have a Tyrannofax, the big Tyrant Guard brick, plus the Carnifex brick that can all sort of take up the middle. There's also a Maliceptor just like hanging out there too to like eat shots for them. So it's a lot less kind of utility focused than most Tyranid lists, but definitely much more aggressive. But yeah, I wanted to shout those lists out because they were undefeated at not small events, which I think is still worth talking about for sure. But there's also some random other stuff that I picked up when I was going through lists. I picked up a Talons of the Emperor. This is from a 3-0 list from a SmackDown at the Crux and RTT. James Lee taking Talons, which was cool. They're not the only Adeptus Custodes that went 3-0, but definitely the most interesting, I think. A lot of them were shield hosts that were kind of standard. But Talons is cool to see because I think it's actually kind of slept on right now. I know Crusher Stampede sees a little bit of play. It just like, it doesn't feel quite as straightforward as Invasion Fleet, which is why I think a lot of people just stick with that one. Because Invasion Fleet is just, you know, just a toolbox full of good stuff. Would you like lethals or sustains? Would you like, you know, F5 plus feel no pain? It's all there. Just pay for it. Or don't. Use a free strat from your Hive Tyrant. So, I'm gonna pull up my Talons of the Emperor rolls real quick here, so I don't misreport the enhancements. I know that the Radiant Mantle, I think, is a -1 to hit as long as your unit is within 9. Is that right? Or within 12, excuse me. So it's kind of like a stealth with extra steps, but it works in melee too. It's every time you get attacked. It's not every time, not ranged attacks only. Another Blade Champion with Gift of Terran Artifice, which is +1 to wound with his attacks, which is good because he's got a lot of like strength 6 attacks. So +1 to wound helps him a lot into bigger stuff. Aegis Projector on an Alaris Shield Captain, which gives him a once per turn flip damage to 0. We're putting him into a big unit of 10 Alaris Custodians. Oh my god. What is this? So we're rocking 2 units of 5, so 10 Alaris Custodians. One of them gets an attachment from an Alaris Captain. We've then got 3 units of Custodian Guard to attach Blade Champions into. Or one of them almost certainly goes into this Warden squad, I guess, to toughen it up. You probably put the Radiant Mantle guy in there so you can stack +1 to hit, or -1 to hit and wound. The other one can be more aggressive, and then these guys can just stand out in the middle of nowhere and be like, you gonna kill me? Probably not. Only Prosecutors and Witch Seekers to turn on the Talons Guambo combos. To give the anti-mortal wound and psychic attack aura. But that's honestly, I think the real benefit of the Talon stratagems is that they affect up to 2 Adeptus Custodes units. They don't have to target the Sisters of Silence, so you can just use them on 1 unit at a time, and you get most of the value out of them. You can get fallback and charge. You can get +1 strength and EP against a single enemy target in the shooting phase. You can get, if there is an Anathema Psychono unit near you, you can improve your Feel No Pain and Mortal Wound, or your anti-psychic attack and Mortal Wound, Feel No Pain. The most important ones, though, is that you can get +1 to wound against in the fight phase against stuff that's below starting strength. So if you've flanked it with your Alaris Custodians, you can +1 to wounded in melee, which then probably just murders it. And the Alaris Custodians getting wound rerolls against basically the entire game are good at doing any amount of damage to almost anything, even if it's not that many. But the other one is the you have a reactive move against enemies that are move within 9, you can then move 6 inches using up to 1 Custodian and 1 Psychona unit. So you can use these big Alaris Custodians that are tough to kill, that can then be very, very difficult to pin down in melee as well, and then use uppy downies to redeploy. But yeah, pretty cool. I think one thing that a lot of people were playing, and we were, I think, playing around with on stream, was playing like a vehicle-focused Talons of the Emperor sort of composition, which I think is really interesting, but it doesn't seem like that is a that's an archetype that's really taken off. A lot of people are still on just taking a bunch of infantry, which, to be fair, is probably efficient for sure. But I'd love to see Talons see more play, because it does, in my opinion, feel like a superior version of Shield Host, but with some extra hoops you have to jump through. But yeah, chat. I think that we are probably gonna wrap things up there. Talked about a lot of Chaos Space Marine lists, a bunch of other sweet factions that we popped into. Damned Legion, what's up, dude? How's it going? Hope you're having a good one. Thanks for popping in the stream. Always nice to see you in here. But yeah, I'd be curious to see whether or not we continue to see Chaos Space Marines like sort of at this level, or if next weekend's really going to be like the make or break, if CSM make like a big impact on the metagame. I was surprised to not see as many as I expected in RTTs this weekend, but that might just be, you know, a hobby lag thing for sure. Yeah, but please come hang out with me over the weekend. We are, I'm going to be live streaming DreamHack, the DreamHack Invitational. So if you hold on after the stream concludes, then you'll be taken over there, and you can hit the button to get notified when when that event goes live. We might be live on Friday with a showcase game, depending on when I get into Dallas to set my stuff up, and I would absolutely love to do that, because I got a bunch of stuff to improve the stream coverage, so hopefully it all comes out okay. Crossing my fingers aggressively over here. But yeah, please hang out with me for the DreamHack coverage. I think it's going to be a big thing for 40K. Being able to go to like a large esport event and kind of showcase the game and the competitive scene, and get a little bit of coverage from, you know, that angle of things, I think is really cool. And I know it's something that Tabletop Life has been working on at the National Tabletop League for a really long time. So I'm excited. But yeah, thanks everyone for hanging out with me. Remember to keep it classy, folks. Have happy wargaming, and I'll see you over the weekend.